Hey, what's up everybody? Chad Calek here, and welcome back to the In a Crowded Room podcast for episode number 95, which in a few minutes we are going to talk about what is going on with the U.S. and Iran right now, and how that relates to the Daniel David Skyfall prediction that a war between the U.S. would break out in the Middle East right before the fake alien invasion will occur. As you know, Skyfall made this prediction way back in December 19th, and we're going to get into that. But before we do, I just want to let all of you know that the ironclad release date for Phantom Rider has been set for February 8th, and the release date for 74 Minutes has been set for March 8th, okay? Before we get into more about that, I just want to say thank you to all of you for supporting me throughout the incredibly difficult process of finishing Phantom Rider. The second half of 2019 was definitely one of the more difficult time frames of my life. For some things that were really weird and bizarre, and you're going to see some of those in the Phantom Rider documentary. And also, as many of you know, I have been dealing with a medical issue with somebody very, very close to me. And I just want to thank all you guys for supporting me and standing behind me and sending me amazing messages throughout the entire thing. I mean it when I say nobody was a dickhead. Everybody was super cool. And I shot a video earlier, and I said it then, I mean it now. A lot of people say, and it's cliche to say, my fans are the best, but I truly do mean that, because, you know, I get that when people are excited about something, they're just excited about it, and they want it. I totally understand. And what's really weird about my life is I wound up in this weird lane where I make films about my life and my experience. And I only choose to do that because when I'm making documentaries, I want to make the most honest films I can make. And if they're things I lived through, I feel like I can be the most honest about those things, that I will have the best perspective on those things, and that I could document the most of my life versus anybody else's. And throughout my career, I've always been able to work through any kind of like stress or busy schedule or any kind of like chaos and madness, like in a weird way. I think Laura would tell you this. She laughs all the time and says, you know, my most uncomfortable day is a good day. You know, meaning that whenever things are calm and cool, that's when I stress out the most. I don't know if it's like PTSD from like, you know, being young and going through, you know, house fires or my dad's fire. Like, I don't know what it is, but yeah, whenever things are calm and even flow, I'm just uncomfortable. When things are really crazy and hectic and busy, that's when I'm at my most comfortable. So I could always work through busy. Busy is never like hard for me. Stressful is never hard for me. The only thing that is hard for me, the only thing, is sadness. Because I don't know how to get off a phone call and get some like really bad news about a family member, and then, you know, go, hey, let's be creative now. You know, let's hop on the computer and get excited about art. You know, sadness is the only thing that hinders me. And the majority of my life, I mean, when I say the majority, I mean like 99.99% of it, I've been pretty happy. Like, despite negative things that happen, I've always been able to bounce back really quickly. And I've come to understand, or I've come to learn, a lot of that was because most of the tragedies, the great tragedies that I suffered in life, that I've had, and I know we all have them, so I'm not putting mine on a pedestal, man. It's all relative. Everybody goes through tough shit. I get it. I'm not special. The stuff I'm going through isn't any harder than anything that you guys go through. I totally understand, but it's all relative to each of us, right? what we go through affects us the way it affects us, and it hurts us the way it hurts us. But most of the incredibly difficult things that I faced were all before the age of 18, and most of it was before the age of, 13 or 14, barring the haunting stuff in my house. And the reason I think that's relevant when it comes to the medical issues with the family, I'm just going to say it's my dad. You guys know this. It's just hard dancing around it. My father just doesn't want me to talk about anything that he's going through on social media, and I understand that, so I'm not going to be detailed about it. But the reason I think that it affects me more as an adult is because when I was younger and my dad got burned, if you don't know, if you haven't seen American Ghost Hunter or listened to the podcast series, when I was 10 years old, my father was burned over 3/4 of his body, 3rd degree. He was supposed to die. The doctors twice took us in to say goodbye to him, and he fought his way all the way back. Then again, I think it's my sophomore year in high school, he was also after making a full recovery and taking a decade to do it, although you never truly recover from a burn injury, he had finally gotten to the point where he could ride a motorcycle. And as much as that scared everybody, it was his life, and he needed to be happy and do the things that make him happy. And he unfortunately had a fucking horrible motorcycle accident where he broke 17 bones in 32 places, and it was crazy. That was another 5-year recovery. And I remember, like I said, seeing him in the emergency room, and it's weird, his brain was on reset. My mom just barged her way in, dragging us in there, and I remember my dad looking at me going, he's fucked up, man. His ankle literally is jammed so far up his leg, his ankle is where his knee should be. So he looks like a short leg. It's just weird. His foot's there. His left arm is so shattered. It just looks like his arm and hand just look like putty. His teeth are knocked out, all this crazy stuff. And he looks at me and he's just like, "Hey, boy." I'm like, "Hey, Dad." He's like, "Where am I?" I'm like, "You're at the hospital." He's like, "Why?" I'm like, "You got in a wreck." And he'd go, "Huh?" And he'd look at me all confused, and his eyes would shut for a few seconds, and he'd open it up. He'd go, "Hey, boy." I'm like, "Hey, where are we at?" I'm like, "The hospital? I just said that." "What?" "Yeah, you were in a wreck." He'd go, No, I wasn't." He'd close his eyes again, open them up. "Hey, boy." I'm just going, oh, fuck, man. I'm like, the motherboard is gone, And he battled his way all the way back from there. But when you're young, even at 12, 13, 14, what occurred to me now as a 42-year-old man is I couldn't grasp the potential of death and what death really meant back then. And I realized that when I lost my puppy Capone, 8 years ago. That loss of Capone, this dog was just my soulmate. I can't even begin to put into words how bad that hurt me. And it fucked me up, man. For a good year, I was just beside myself. And my brain was doing weird things. I would wake up and I would know he was gone. I remember that that Capone died. And for a few seconds, I would start thinking of ways to bring him back before my brain would click and go, yo, no, there's no plan that'll work. And it kept happening. This went on for a good month, where for a few seconds, I would start thinking of, well, how do I get him back? What if and it was so weird. It was the weirdest thing ever. And when it just hit me that he wasn't going to ever be around, and I would never wake up to him, I would never, pet him, I would never love on him, he would never sit by my feet when I'm editing, he would never follow me around. It was just, it was overwhelming. And so as an adult, having no real, death or potential death tragedies between, the age of 15 to 42, I was really fortunate, actually. And I think that's why the last 6 months have been so hard. And listen, I'm not giving up on anybody, and I will have faith until, I will never give up. I have nothing but faith that, my father will, be okay. And somehow, magic will happen, So, but it was hard. It was hard. And it was hard because for the first time ever, I think I understood what depression was. Because when I say that, Laura's had her bouts with depression. I've had family members that have gone through depression, and I never really understood it. I thought depression was just being really sad. That's all. You're just sad, and then, you feel a little bit better. Like, I didn't realize that depression's much more than that until I felt it, that depression could, take away your desire to literally want to rise out of your bed. It could take away your desire to eat. It can take away your desire to drink. It can take away your desire to see anybody. It was just something that was shocking to me. And I didn't have it like, consistently for weeks on end. It would just, I would get an update or, something would happen on the phone, and it'd be like for a couple days, it just seemed like everything I did was a struggle, my life isn't set up where I could, I'm afforded the time to take 2 or 3 days off. I just, and that's, my choice and decision. And I've, built my life that way. So I'm not bitching about it, but it was hard for that reason, that it just made everything hard. And when you're sad, trying to be creative is next to impossible. I shouldn't even say sad, when you're depressed. And, the last month has been really good for me. And it's been really good because I got to spend a lot of time with Laura. And, I got the quick chance to go home. And, I was been talking more with friends and, my partner and just in general, just reaching out more. And the reason I'm bringing all this up is because I really want you guys to know how much it means to me that you guys have stood by me with Phantom Rider and with 74 Minutes. And I'm really excited for you guys to finally see this film. On February 8th, it will be released. And on March 8th, 74 Minutes will be released. And like I said, I'm just finishing up the final dabs on Phantom Rider, and while I'm simultaneously working well into 74 Minutes. And to kind of celebrate the final setting of this date, because I know they bounced around a little bit, and I can promise you it will be released on that date. To celebrate that, for the next, if you guys haven't had the chance to buy the DVDs, really quickly, let me talk about the DVDs. Usually, when I do DVDs, because I don't really want to be in the DVD business, because it's super hard just to ship thousands of them. So we've always just, or the last couple of releases, we've been like, listen, we're just going to do like 50 copies of a DVD, and I'll sign it. We'll make it special. And we did that with Phantom Rider, and they all sold out. And we did that with 74 Minutes, and they sold out. Well, after talking to our DVD manufacturer, they no longer do orders of 50. It's too small for them, so you have to do at least 100. That being said, there's going to be 50 more copies of both. So I'm just going to sell them both together for $30, which is actually a great deal, because they're both usually at $20 or $24.99. So usually they're both $25. So it's usually $50 for both. If you're interested in that and you want autographed copies of both, click the link below in the description. I can tell you, you will love both movies. There are only 50 of these left, the DVDs that you can pre-order. So definitely, man, take advantage of this. This is my bread and butter. This is what I do better than anything on planet Earth. Filmmaking is the only thing that I feel like God actually, blessed me with just a little bit of talent. And I don't mean that egotistically at all. I mean, it's the only thing that I feel like that, I kind of know what I'm doing there. So I think you guys will love it. And I'm telling you, Phantom Rider is something else, and it really relates to the world that we're living in right now. With that being said, let's talk about Skyfall. What is up, man? As I told you guys in the last Skyfall episode, we went over some more of his predictions. Now let's, not that I want to run down them all, but let's replay how this happened, okay? So at the end of 2018 is when I started telling Skyfall, pretty much, look, man, I think you're bullshit. Like, you're not telling me your real name, you're not stepping forward. And if you're not going to, then you can't expect me to report on anything that you say, because I have no reason to believe that it's true, and you're going to have to give me something. And of course, he did not want to give me anything. So what he did instead is he made a list of predictions for me. And, his first prediction, which I went to Facebook and wrote right away, is that in the following 6 months, there would be a slew. This was on my Facebook page on December 29th, 2019. 2018. That there would be January 2018. That there would be, a slew of media stories, and they would escalate. Basically, and he specifically said that they would be on the major networks, major news outlets. And slowly but surely over the next 6 months, that's exactly what happened. And the story did escalate. It started out with just, here's these 3 videos that the Department of Defense released. And then it was like, here's David Fravor. And David Fravor, says this was just like this isolated incident that just happened, during this 2-week time period. And as Fravor continues to do his media rounds, the story gets bigger and bigger. And then the next story comes out that, wait a minute, on the other side of the country, on the East Coast, there was, quite a few sightings of these things that looked like squares with a ball in the middle that were flying through the sky with incredible maneuverability. And first, you hear that, they don't really say how many times it happened, but we're led to believe it was a few isolated incidents. Then the New York Times story hits where there's 5 pilots that are saying, not only did we encounter these things, we encountered them pretty much every other day for a year. What? Then another story comes out that says, by the way, these things followed our aircraft over to the Middle East. What? I mean, it was just like the story just kept getting bigger and bigger. And then there's a story that the Navy is now changing their protocol, for what's going on. And simultaneously, the Space Force is ramping up. And that's steadily gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until, finally I told you guys, the whole Top Gun thing with Tom Cruise comes out. And now it's funny, I had some people laugh at me and they said, really, do you really think, Top Gun and Tom Cruise are going to usher in America's, faith in the Space Force? Look, this all sounds crazy. What if I'd have told you, 10 years ago that a reality show TV guy would have been our president, that the guy that would lead the largest UFO movement in history with nothing but military generals surrounding him would have been Tom DeLonge from Blink-182, and if I would have said the guy that's going to basically rally America through entertainment is going to be Tom Cruise. It's not that crazy when you look at how this has been going. The Department of Defense has been relying upon entertainers because the public loves them. That's why. This has been going on forever. Now, there were other predictions that Skyfall made back on December 29th, but the one that I focused on Facebook was the media one. Now, if you go back and look at the next, after all that media stuff happened, I did a podcast on Skyfall's other predictions. And this was, a good 6 months ago. Not 6 months, probably about 4 months ago. And in that podcast, no, it was 6 months ago. And in that podcast, Skyfall said, Trump is going to be impeached, but he will not leave office. He will be reelected, and he has been selected to be the president that is going to announce to America that we have made contact with extraterrestrials. He just so happens to be the president that's also establishing and building the Space Force. But in that prediction, Skyfall said, how this is all going to go down is there's going to be, I'm using my own words here, as I would speak, and I don't remember his verbatim how he wrote it, but basically what he said was, and I said this way back 6 months ago, Skyfall said there's going to be a war in the Middle East that's going to look real scary. And then this fake alien invasion is going to come, in which the war in the Middle East will stop and the call will be made for the world to band together, humanity as a whole to come together to save our race, right? Now, over and over and over, I got asked last week, they said, what if you found out that Skyfall was just some fan that was just guessing lucky? I said, man, nothing in the world would make me happier. I mean, I wouldn't feel like a dumbass because all I'm doing is putting the guy's, predictions up to spec. Let's see if it happens. But I would love it if he were fake. I would love it if he was just some fan that was just tuned in. I would love all of it. There's times that I've prayed that he is. I don't think he is. I don't know who he is. I've been asked, do you think he's a part of QAnon? Do you think he's a part of, Tom DeLonge's group? I don't know. But I know he's batting 1,000. I know everything he has predicted has come to pass so far. Now, could he be wrong? Of course. Sure. But I haven't seen it. He's not demonstrated it. It's incredible, his timing, and he is dead on. I watched Trump's speech today. If you guys, haven't been in a hole for the last week like I have been editing, and caught on after the fact when people started emailing me, we took out Iran's top military general and known terrorist, and out of the blue this happened, just boom, it happened. A move highly criticized by many and highly supported by others. And then out of the blue, Iran is launching missiles at our base and our consulate. Now, no Americans were killed whatsoever, which made me feel like this is kind of a for show type of, missile launch that Iran felt like, well, we got to do something for the people because there's some pissed off Iranians that are out in the street burning American flags. And the last thing we need is a war in the Middle East, man. We do not need that. But thank God no U.S. troops were killed. Thank God, first and foremost. I'm a big supporter of the armed forces. Like I said, my father was a career military man. Everybody in the armed forces does what I couldn't do, man, and I'm so thankful for that, so thankfully, nobody lost their life to this, no U.S. deaths. That made me feel like, yeah, it was just a retaliatory act to try to look tough and to not look weak, because, Trump just, killed this dude, handed him his ass, and they got to do something. So after watching Trump's, speech today, he pretty much just said, they shot, their missiles, they didn't kill anybody, and it appears like they're standing down, and the strength of the U.S. is not just military, but financial and political, which I was so glad to hear. And, he was saying that, they're going to basically try to get a coalition of countries to put sanctions on them and make sure they don't get a nuclear weapon. Now, here's what's difficult about the whole thing. It would be great if that was it. And this whole thing with Iran just got sidelined. But this has been a steady build. And I just don't see Iran playing ball. There's a lot of reasons now for them to try to assassinate one of our leaders. I think that's a real possibility. I know on the news that is one of the biggest worries of our government right now. I don't think this situation with Iran is going anywhere. Had any of those missiles killed U.S. soldiers, I think Trump would be in, full on, we're going to fucking pancake you war. And thankfully, cooler heads prevailed. And that's not the case. And I'm going to pray, and I hope you guys do too, that we do not go to war, man. And we just don't, mankind as a whole just still doesn't get it. Like, war is bad in all aspects. There should never be a reason why a group of people say to another group of people, I disagree with you, and our disagreements are so strong that I'm going to try to kill your side and you try to kill my side. I mean, come on, man. Like, what year is it? We have brains. There's nothing in this world that should lead anybody to that as far as fighting over something like land or oil. Like, there's enough for all of us. And it's just, man, we've got to get to that place. That's the one thing that Skyfall said is basically, once the real alien invasion comes and 0-point energy is presented to the world, and, that there will be a time period of war and strife, but it will be replaced with this, I don't want to say utopian, but this, basic idea that, if energy is free, we don't have to work, and if people don't have to, then there would be an incredible volunteer system, that there would be, margins of work for, maybe 2 or 3 hours a week, you do something for your community. Universal basic income would become a realistic thing. And I don't see universal basic income as charity. I think that as technology advances, there's going to be less jobs, period, because robots do shit better than humans. So, once the workforce truly becomes decimated as the population is growing at astronomical levels, what do? Go to Los Angeles and take a look at Skid Row right now. You will fucking, man, I'm sorry for swearing so much, guys. I'm just passionate about this. Go to Skid Row in LA. It is out of control, guys. The homeless there, it is out of control. This situation isn't going away, okay? As AI advances, the job market is going to become smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. There's going to have to be some kind of basic income solution. And with 0-point energy, if suddenly, nobody had to work physically for power, for gas, for electricity to get where we're going, just energy is everything, right? It's everything. There's a very different way of life, a peaceful way of life. And God, I hope we can get there. It just seems so unbelievable. That's kind of my problem with this whole thing, that everything that Skyfall's saying. And to make it clear, I get asked all the time, do you have any doubts about that? Are you kidding me? I have doubts about all of it. But it's playing out exactly like he's saying. And I just found myself in the middle of this situation where my buddy filmed something very real on an island that doesn't make any sense. And we were going down one path, calling it a ghost, and life was normal. And the second we shift gears to investigate if it was in fact a gray because society said it was, and Craig and I both had things we experienced that made us wonder, then life goes haywire. And I find myself here. So do I, wonder, if any of this is even possible? Yeah, do I wonder if it's possible for aliens to come down and, lay out a new way of life and everybody will adopt it? That seems more impossible to me than aliens coming. Aliens being here. Like, just the fact that everybody around the world would adopt something. But my only hope is, the one thing that's true, and unless you've traveled the world, you don't get this. Unless you've been, and I've not, traveled, like my partner, Thomas, he's been everywhere. But he agrees with me on this, is that, no matter what country you go to, fundamentally, people are the same. They just want to be happy. They want to love who they want to love. They want their kids to have a shot at doing, they're living their dream. They want, a full belly. They want to eat a meal, good food every day. They want good times with their friends. This is no different if you live in Cleveland, Ohio, or fucking Turkmenistan. It doesn't matter if you live in South Africa or Canada. family's family, friends are friends, good times are good times, and by and large, people do not want to kill other people, and they don't want violence in their life, and they also don't want somebody to put their thumb on the back of their neck and make them do something that they don't want to do. So because of that, and I've traveled enough around the world to get that, to understand that everybody's kind of the same, despite having a lot of cultural differences. Mankind's mankind. They're fundamentally the same. And that gives me hope that if this alien invasion came, the real one, it gives me hope that if there was a breakaway warring faction of the power elite and the energy elite, I hope they get devastated. And I hope this new way of life could be adopted, because I think the one thing we all universally want, is peace. I don't care who you are. I think that's what you want. And if there's a way to, ensure that, if someone put forward a plan that said, you're not going to be homeless, you're going to eat well, your family members will have great medical care, and, no one's going to kill you or control you. If someone could put forth a plan for life, a life plan that included that as a guarantee if you followed it, I think America would follow that. I know the world probably would too, but again, that seems like a utopian stretch. But what's going on in Iran right now, right when I saw this, I just went, oh shit, man, Skyfall made this prediction. I was wondering who it was going to be, if this was going to happen, because, when all the oil fields got blown up, they were saying that was Iran too, and I was thinking, ooh, are we going to move in? And we didn't. I was like, oh, okay, maybe we're cool then. But then this comes out of the blue. I'm interested as to what you guys think, man. I mean, did you guys see the Space Force announcement that Trump did, like 2 weeks ago? I mean, it was a huge, big thing on the TV. I mean, where he was doing the same thing. He was talking about the new battlefield in space and this dangerous domain and how we will be, the dominant force. I'm going, wait a minute, has a bullet even been fired in space? Like, has one missile been launched in space? Like, how is this like a new warring domain? I mean, I realize we have satellites up there and satellites control missiles and shit down here. I know all that, but I'm saying, like, they're talking about a physical presence, like fighting space wars. Before we ever have a permanent presence up there, we're already saying that. I'm not saying that I, even think he's wrong, because the one thing mankind has proven is that whenever we get to anywhere first, we'll defend it with our, life to keep it and make it ours. And, the first thing we did when we got to the moon is we planted a flag, Space should probably be no different, but, I would hope that, again, as mankind progresses, that we would look at space as not ours, but everybody's. And, again, I know it might sound utopian to people, but I don't think it is. I think there should be a way that everybody could have a presence up there. And, but I'm probably wrong, man. It's just this money going into Space Force and the push for it. And, all these UFO videos coming out, these UFO sightings. And now the government says, yeah, UFOs are real. And now here's Space Force. And now the biggest movie of the year is going to be about Space Force. And, and Skyfall is predicting that this war coming in. And you would have to have a war. You would have to have something going on that would make us stop and look at the alien race as the threat. And, it's crazy that all of his predictions are coming true. It's crazy. So I just want to know what you guys think. Do you think this thing with Iran is going to go away? Or do you think that this is going to be the war that Skyfall is referencing? I've already emailed him. I've not heard anything back. I've sent the email to the one address that I have. And as always, after I send the email, it gets deleted from my sent box. But that's normal. you guys will see some weird stuff in Phantom Rider that I've been able to capture on my computer. Weird things that are happening. I can't wait till you guys see some of this stuff. But yeah, I emailed him and just said, what is this? Is this what you were talking about? And if it is, let me know, what's up. And I have not heard back, but I will let you guys know if I hear anything back. Skyfall's weird. Sometimes he'll send me 3 messages in an hour, and then I won't hear from him for 3 months. So I don't know. But I want to know your guys' thoughts. Do you think this is going to go away with Iran? Do you think it's going to keep progressing? And do you guys even think that it would even be possible if an alien race came down and denuclearized us and basically delivered this technology that changed, the way the world operated and made it where people wouldn't have to break their backs at crazy jobs, and we could, basically live without the pressure of, basically having, to have a thumb on our neck? Do you think this is even adoptable? Do you think that it's possible for the world to kind of take over this Star Trek type of society where everybody basically volunteers and no one's really paid, but they volunteer because they're doing what they love, because everything's taken care of as far as their home, food, bills, all that stuff? Is that even possible? Is that possible? And if there is a fake alien invasion, do you think it's even possible to pull it off? I mean, I could tell you this, Sir No Face looks real as shit, and I know for a fact it's not a child, it's not a person, it's not, it's an entity. What it is, I don't know what it is, but it's an entity. And it wasn't anybody from Craig's team, it wasn't anybody on the island, someone put it there. Whatever it is, it was put there. And that was pretty damn believable. If Project Bluebeam is as good as they say it is, which I have every reason to believe it is, that would be impressive. But I do have this question to you guys too. It's the last question I'll ask. Who do you think the leader will be? Because if there's going to be a one world order where mankind kind of comes together as one to, as Ronald Reagan says, set our differences aside to fight for, our race, who do you think the world leader will be? You guys tell me what you think. Hey, look, man, it was awesome to be back and make another podcast, the first of 2020. Thank you all for supporting this podcast. We had a great first year last year. The numbers consistently rose, sometimes slower than others, but a lot of that was my posting was not as consistent as I hope it will be. I can promise you this, guys, once Phantom Rider and once 74 Minutes are both done and released and I've done all the press for them and all that stuff, once that is done, I promise you, promise, I will be posting podcasts every single day. Life will be way easier then. So thank you guys so much for listening. As always, once again, click the link below, guys. If you haven't got both your pre-order for 74 Minutes and for Phantom Rider, the autographed DVD, right now you can get them both of them for $30 plus shipping, both autographed and signed. Only 50 combo packages available. Get them while they last. Thank you in advance for your support on that too. And I'm really proud of Phantom Rider. And 74 Minutes is coming along incredibly well, which you guys are going to see more of that in the future, and I'll be talking about that film more as well. But yeah, Happy New Year, everybody. Much love. Thank you all once again for listening to episode number 95 of the In a Crowded Room podcast. I will be back tomorrow with more. All the best.